This is the meta-theory of control in essence. Civilization as a human farm disguised as a paradisical enclosure. It is fueled by an engine of chaos, whose mechanism is informed by the parasite who designed it to express a common, self-replicating psychological blueprint that engenders intentional dysfunction, neuroses, and fatalistic delusions. Indeed, such a system factors into the larger hidden empires system of human rotational farming, where host empires are artificially raised with the empowering addiction of fiat, only to then incrementally expand the territorial control and area of exploitability of this hidden empire. After 250 years or so has passed, then the empire is systematically destroyed, firstly through engineered internal dysfunctionality, and then finally by the perfect storm of black swan events that engulf it in a narratively justifiable collapse phase. It is the recurring archetype of control, but there is a unifying religious and philosophical thread that binds this hidden empire together and tempers the otherwise competing intra-ambitions of the cartel monopoly. Such a dysfunction by design, conceivably, would only function in the framework described above, given the transitory and unfixed nature of their view, which is expressed through their moves upon the chessboard of civilizational, historical, and financialization cycles, a Ponzi of perception and dependency. The goal isn't growth, it's perpetual harvesting, control, decay, obsolescence. The entire cycle functions like a psychological Ponzi scheme. Value is extracted not from reality, but from belief in perpetual renewal. This turns the modern economy from a creative system into a predatory feedback loop. Thus, people must keep participating to maintain the illusion of stability. The way this is done is 1. The need, real or manufactured. Every control system begins by identifying or creating a lack. It inserts itself as the provider of fulfillment. This is the wedge, the psychological entry point. I should have also wrote there as well. It doesn't just create that lack, it also imposes it through illusion. So that's where the creation comes from. 2. Planned obsolescence. Once dependency is formed, systems ensure it never ends. Products, ideas, or lifestyles are designed to decay, so replacement and continued consumption is guaranteed. 3. Advertising, mass persuasion. Desire is manipulated through narrative. The market or ideology sells identity, not utility. People buy symbols of self-worth rather than genuine satisfaction. 4. The new demand engineered. Norms are shifted so that sufficiency feels inadequate. Society is trained to crave the next thing. The stage enforces psychological insecurity. 5. The new product. The solution to inadequacy is offered, which is itself designed to fail or expire. The system thrives not by solving problems, but by renewing dependence. 6. Repeat obsolescence. Decay is accelerated, the cycle is compressed, so that the next dependency forms before the current one collapses. Consumption velocity, in essence, not innovation, becomes the goal. 7. Stock price goes up, extraction. The financial system monetizes hype, inflating valuations not through value creation, but through perception management. Sell the sizzle, not the steak, in essence. This can also be done vis-a-vis fiat, as we see with the US stock indexes, most notably that of the Dow Jones. If you were to take out all of the value, quote-quote, created by inflation, or just simply, as we colloquially term it, money printing, then, in fact, the American economy, by that index alone, is stagnant. The index is stagnant. It's seen no real growth. All of the growth that you see is merely inflated through the creation of the money supply and the ever-expanding creation of that money supply. Number 8, stock price goes down, extraction again. When collapse comes, insiders profit again. Short selling, bailouts and resets, both growth and decay are monetized. Heads they win, tails you lose. 9, the Cantillon effect. Those closest to money creation, banks and financiers, capture the benefits of inflation before it trickles down. Everyone else absorbs the loss. This codifies inequality into the system effectively. Number 10, finally, Triffin's paradox. At the global level, imbalance is necessary. The reserve currency issuer, the US for example, must run deficits to sustain demand for its currency, ensuring permanent instability. The system literally requires dysfunction or chaos to survive, hence ordo ab chao. We don't live in a republic. We live within a Freemasonry. We live within an extension of the lodge. So what is the meaning of dysfunction by design? Well, this is not describing accidental corruption of capitalism or institutions, or even by the merchant class itself, but it's describing a self-reinforcing mechanism designed to harvest attention through essentially compulsive engagement cycles, through money and belief, through cycles of need, decay and replacement. It shows how the economy, and by extension ideology and culture, thrives on manufactured instability. This is why consumerism was called the end of history by Francis Fukuyama, because it's literally the perfect system of slavery and control. A Ponzi of perception and dependency, the entire cycle functions like a psychological Ponzi scheme. Value is extracted not from reality but from belief in perpetual renewal. The goal isn't growth, it's perpetual harvest, and this turns the modern economy from a creative system into a predatory feedback loop. Control, decay and obsolescence, just to reiterate, control is maintained through decay. People must keep participating to maintain the illusion of stability. So effectively this is what we live in currently. This is the current modus operandi of the system. However, if we look to 1984, that is the system that we're living in right now, taken to its logical conclusion. To its, again, you could call it its extreme conclusion as well, but it is really just the logical extrapolation of what you see currently in our current dystopian system. Both describe how control systems, religious, political or economic, operate by manufacturing dependence. This is the collective projection of the psyche's shadow, an externalization of our internal dependence and avoidance of responsibility. The parasitic template that we've just described above is the macrocosmic version of the individual's inner fragmentation. The false world's economy mirrors the false psyche's operation. Both thrive on illusion, scarcity and endless substitution. Effectively, this is what you see, between our own consumeristic mind and mentality, which itself has been conveyed to us by the men of material, by the ruling class, those who have been twisted and mangled, both psycho-spiritually and even in some cases physically, by capital, by the madness induced vis-a-vis capital, the madness of gold. So what they've conveyed to us is this, basically what is a false world economy, a false psyche. We live within mental characters. This is why narcissism is through the roof, because people are stuck in this neurotic drive where they believe that their mental character, the mask that they wear, is literally them. That is the true essence of them, which is of course totally false. And they'll never figure that out because they are an atomized individual. They have no community. So there's no corrective mechanisms within their general vicinity. That just doesn't exist. So therefore they're stuck in this self-referential loop. This reinforcing, self-reinforcing, closed feedback loop of control. Where they're in this, they're completely stagnant. They'll never escape that system. Because they're stuck in the shadow, if you will. They're stuck wearing the mask. They believe that they are the mask, not understanding that actually what they're living is a complete simulacra, meaning a poor substitution of reality itself. So what these terms and conceptions capture, perhaps unconsciously, is the outer anatomy of the inner sickness. The cycle of need, consumption and decay is not merely an economic algorithm. It's the psyche externalized, projected upon the world stage. Each iteration of planned obsolescence in the market echoes the psyche's own refusal to rest in sufficiency, to be whole. The system feeds on perpetual incompletion, and so do we. This is why every ideology, whether religious, political or economic, must eventually become parasitic. It mirrors the unresolved duality within us. To heal the outer world, one must first withdraw that projection and address the same algorithm at its source, within the mind itself. And indeed, every civilization tells itself it was built for freedom, for progress, for the triumph of reason. But beneath that noble lie is buried another design, quiet, efficient, and ancient. A design not of creation, but of harvest. This is the meta-theory of control. Civilization is a human farm, disguised as paradise. It runs on an engine of chaos, not random chaos, but engineered chaos. A system whose parts were arranged long ago by what could be called a parasitic intelligence. Not a person, but a conveyed, foisted upon us pattern. A psychological algorithm that reproduces itself across time, empires, ideologies, and economies. Its purpose is not to destroy humanity. It is to feed on humanity, to draw energy, obedience, and attention from us through dysfunction, fear, and hope. We could also call it the hidden empire. It is not a single state, but a structure that lives through them. It raises host empires, fattens them with the addictive power of fiat, money created ex nihilo, then expands its own reach through their conquests. For roughly 2.5 centuries the host grows, then systematically it is dismantled, first by internal decay, corruption, inflation, loss of meaning, then by crises, the black swan song that seems natural but never is. And from the ashes a new host arises, each time larger, each time more integrated, each time more obedient. And this hidden empire does not govern by force, it governs by design, a dysfunction by design. And in this Ponzi of perception and dependency, the modern economy doesn't create value. It merely extracts and contrives belief. It thrives on the illusion of perpetual renewal. Growth is no longer the goal. As we've stated, the goal is harvest. To keep the engine turning, to keep the wheels of the Merkaba, the chariot, turning. To keep the human mind producing meaning for a machine that has none. Control, decay, obsolescence, the trinity of modern existence. People must keep participating to preserve the illusion of stability, and the more the illusion fractures, the faster the cycle must turn. And indeed, this isn't only isolated to economics. It is a psychology materialized. The system mirrors the psyche that built it, fragmented, anxious, addicted to control. Each new empire, each ideology, is a projection of our own unresolved inner conflict. The outer parasite is the reflection of the inner one. The part of us that feeds on fear, on desire, on the endless chase for more. Until we recognise that, no revolution, no reform could ever break this cycle. And thus, to conclude with the final and most poignant thought, history is not progress, it is rotation. Empires rise, they collapse, and they reappear under new flags, under new false memories, under new national identities. But the blueprint remains. Each era calls it by a new name: empire, church, market, cloud. But it's the same mechanism. The human mind externalized and mechanized, enslaved for all eternity. What was once spiritual dependency became financial dependency. What was once the priest became the banker. The temple became the marketplace. The offering plate became the debt ledger. The corporate cubicle, the altar. And yet, there is a thread that binds it all. There's a single philosophy that unites the otherwise competing ambitions of the elite. It is not the worship of money itself, but of the Kabbalah of control. Control through instability, through managed chaos, through the promise that next time, next product, next ideology, salvation will arrive. But salvation never comes. Only renewal of the same sickness, wrapped in a brighter packaging. Poison rebottled and rebranded. And to see this is not despair, as many claim. It is the diagnosis that we require. Because what has been built outside of us mirrors what exists within. The system survives only as long as we believe in the lack it manufactures. It burns bright by the flame of our apathy. Withdraw that belief, and the architecture collapses. And thus the cure is not rebellion, but recognition. To see the illusion for what it is, a mirror of our own unconscious design. When enough eyes see clearly, the parasite shall lose its host, and the hidden empire dissolves not through war, but through the restoration of awareness and the dispelling of ignorance. The world does not end with collapse, it ends with awakening, and begins again, anew, when man ceases to be the farmed, and remembers he was the farmer all along.